Joseph Smith bore many titles in his lifetime, but he is probably best known as the prophet. His many prophecies both warned and inspired his followers. Here are a few of the many prophecies of Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith told of the inhabitants of the moon as being about 6 foot tall, dressed like Quakers, and living to be about 1,000 years old. Since Neil Armstrong's walk on the moon in 1969, we now know there are no Quaker-looking people on the moon. Later, Brigham Young further expanded on Joseph Smith's idea by stating the sun was inhabited. The city of New Jerusalem, which city shall be built beginning at the temple lot, which is appointed by the finger of the Lord in the western boundaries of the state of Missouri, and dedicated by the hand of Joseph Smith, beginning at this place, even the place of the temple, which temple shall be reared in this generation.
It's interesting because Jesus spoke prophetically about the temple in Jerusalem, and he said that there won't be one stone standing on top of another. In other words, these beautiful buildings that you see here will be completely destroyed, which of course happened after Jesus' death in AD 70. Well, you can go there today, as we did in our research, and you can stand there, and there it is. It's destroyed. It's been that way since 70 AD. Well, you can go to Independence, Missouri as well, which we did, where Joseph Smith said that a temple will be built here in this generation, in his generation. And you can go there and look, and there's no temple. It's a flat field.
Verily, thus saith the Lord, it is wisdom in my servant David W. Patton, that he settle up all his business as soon as he possibly can, and make a disposition of his merchandise, that he may perform a mission unto me next spring in company with others, even 12, including himself, to testify of my name and bear glad tidings unto the world.
If you do some research on this and study what the history says, it tells us that David W. Patton died at the Battle of Crooked River in the fall of that year. So in the spring, he didn't go on his mission. I've heard excuses made for this passage that state that, well, maybe he went to the spirit world. But that's not what the passage states. It doesn't state he went to the spirit world. I've heard excuses that say, well, maybe he wasn't being obedient to the Lord in the battle and he turned and ran. But that's not the case either. He was actually chasing down the enemy when he got shot in the chest and died. And he died in good standing with the Mormon Church. The excuses I don't think hold any water, because in Doctrine and Covenants chapter 1, it says this: search these commandments, for they are true and faithful, and the prophecies and promises which are in them shall all be fulfilled. What I, the Lord, have spoken, I have spoken, and I excuse not myself. And though the heavens and the earth pass away, my word shall not pass away, but shall all be fulfilled, whether by mine own voice or by the voice of my servant, it is the same. And this passage just says that you can't make any excuses for a prophecy that doesn't come true. If it doesn't come true, then it proves that it was a false prophecy.
Even if a person does have a prophecy or a vision that comes to pass, God warns in Deuteronomy chapter 13, if there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder of which he spoke to you comes to pass, saying, let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them. You shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. The biblical requirement for God's prophets is 100% accuracy. Deuteronomy 18:21-22 states, you may say in your heart, how will we know the word which the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not come about or come true, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. Here God tells his people how to discern deception by someone claiming to be a prophet. If even one prophecy does not come true, he is considered a false prophet.
Why is God so concerned about false prophecy? Obviously because when a man says, I am speaking for God, and what he says is not true, then that blasphemes the God of the Bible. That says the omniscient God doesn't know what he's talking about, that he lied. So therefore, God cannot have anyone who says, I'm speaking for God, give a false prophecy representing him.
Joseph even prophesied the coming of the Lord, which according to Jesus is impossible. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Even so, this is what Oliver Cowdery recorded in 1835. President Smith then stated that the meeting had been called because God had commanded it, and it was made known to him by vision and by the Holy Spirit. It was the will of God that they should be ordained to the ministry and go forth to prune the vineyard for the last time, for the coming of the Lord, which was nigh, even 56 years should wind up the scene. The 56th year passed in 1891. Remember, it only takes one false prophecy for a man to be a false prophet. There are over 300 prophecies concerning the life, mission, death, and resurrection of the Redeemer. Only the Bible lays out mankind's history and precisely details the life of Jesus Christ.